Prince Harry's latest courtroom defeat may become one of the clearest turning points in his life outside the royal family. Not because Harry has never faced bad headlines before. He has faced plenty. He has been criticized for interviews, mocked over his memoir, challenged over his security case, questioned over his commercial deals, and analyzed endlessly over his relationship with King Charles, Prince William, and the institution he left behind. But this defeat feels different because it exposes the central weakness in Harry's post-royal story. He has spent years insisting that he is fighting for truth. But in court, truth is not measured by emotion. It is measured by evidence. That is where Andrew Morton's analysis becomes so important. Morton, who will always be connected to Princess Diana through Diana. Her true story understands better than almost anyone how royal pain, media power, personal testimony, and historical record can collide. He knows what it means for a royal figure to tell a private story in public. He knows the power of one side of a marriage or family conflict being placed before the world.
He walks into a room and people respond to him and they like him. He used to be fun.
Yeah.
He was a fun guy, but he's turned into an embittered middle-aged man. And he's going to have to be very careful because it bleeds into your everyday work, that you're just hostile and agree.
And he knows the difference between a story that feels emotionally true and a case that can survive legal scrutiny. Morton's view of Harry's failed action against the publishers of the Daily Mail was blunt. Harry mistook inference for evidence. That, in Morton's framing, was the enormous mistake. Harry appears to have looked at old articles, old suspicions, old patterns and old wounds, and concluded that unlawful behavior must have taken place. He believed the press knew things it should not have known. He believed there were stories that could only have come from improper methods. He believed his instincts were pointing him toward a hidden truth. But a courtroom is not there to validate instinct. It is there to test proof. That is the difference Harry keeps struggling with. In his public life, he often speaks from feeling: grief, anger, betrayal, fear, trauma, suspicion, and a powerful need to defend his mother's memory. Those feelings may be sincere. They may come from real pain, but sincerity does not turn assumption into evidence. A painful headline does not automatically prove unlawful information gathering. A feeling of betrayal does not automatically show where a story came from. That is why the ruling.
This is all unfolded, briefing against the palace, briefing against the court, the aggressive statement against the court ruling. Are you at all surprised by Prince Harry this week?
Not really, no, because he's the one thing he had in common with his mother. Well, he had a lot of things in common with his mother, but one of the main things was taking on the establishment. And Harry has come out
was so damaging. The judge reportedly examined the material in great depth, producing a lengthy decision that signaled how seriously the court had considered the matter. Harry's response, however, was to present the outcome as a kind of whitewash to his supporters. That may have sounded like righteous anger. To critics, it sounded like a prince refusing to accept that an independent court had not agreed with him. And that is a dangerous look for Harry, because he is not only a private claimant, he is the king's son. He is still Prince Harry. He is still Duke of Sussex. He remains tied symbolically and publicly to the British state, even while fighting parts of it. When he attacks the press, the courts, the Home Office, the palace, and the wider establishment, he is not just another celebrity in a dispute. He is a royal figure repeatedly challenging the institutions that shape public life in Britain. That creates consequences. Morton said that even looking at the evidence only casually and knowing some of the people involved, he would not have put money on Harry winning. That is a devastating observation because it suggests the weakness of the case may have been visible long before the defeat became public. It raises an obvious question: why did nobody persuade Harry to stop? In major litigation, there should come a moment when advisors sit a client down and speak plainly. They should ask whether the evidence is truly strong enough. They should ask whether the emotional satisfaction of continuing is worth the cost. They should ask whether the client is fighting for justice or because he cannot bear to let go. Harry pressed on, and now the costs may be enormous. The source discussion described the financial stakes as massive, with questions about whether insurers might look at the judgment and argue that some costs should not be covered if the case should not have been brought in the first place. The legal details may be complex, but the practical point is simple. Litigation at this level is financially brutal. It consumes money, time, energy, and emotional focus. It also drags other people into years of anxiety. That human cost matters. Morton mentioned Katie Nicholl, who had been due to give evidence and was understandably nervous. That is the part people often forget when royal lawsuits become headlines.
Are you going to pursue this, or should we just wipe our mouths and move on? And the thing about Harry is that he's been looking into the past for years now, for certainly for all his marriage to Meghan. Mm-hmm. So what kind of effect has that had on their relation?
A court case is not just Harry, lawyers, and newspaper groups. It involves journalists, editors, sources, former colleagues, witnesses, and people whose professional reputations can be placed under a microscope. Some of them may spend years wondering whether old work will be reinterpreted as misconduct. For Harry, the fight is personal. For everyone else, it can become collateral damage. The presence of Baroness Doreen Lawrence in the case also created a complicated historical tension. Doreen Lawrence's fight for justice after the racist murder of her son, Stephen Lawrence, is one of the most significant public justice campaigns in modern Britain. The Daily Mail had once played a prominent role in pushing that case into the national conscience. So her involvement in an action against associated newspapers raised uncomfortable questions about memory, loyalty, and how tangled these battles can become. This does not mean she had no right to bring a claim. People can have grievances against institutions that have helped them in other contexts. A newspaper can do something courageous in one case and still be accused of wrongdoing in another. But the symbolism matters. It shows that Harry's war with the press does not stay neatly inside his own story. It pulls in other histories, other reputations, and other emotional wounds. And that is one of the main themes of Harry's life now. His battles rarely remain contained. They spread. They affect Meghan, they affect the royal family, they affect his children because their names and security become part of the public argument. They affect charities connected to him. They affect friends, allies, journalists, and even people who may have believed they were helping a cause larger than Harry himself. That is why Morton's comparison between Harry and Diana is so powerful. On the surface, Harry clearly sees himself as carrying on his mother's fight. Diana took on the establishment. Diana pushed back against the men in grey. Diana used the media to tell a story the palace did not want told. Diana exposed private suffering and changed the way the public understood the royal marriage. Harry may believe he is doing the same thing. But Morton draws a vital distinction. Diana was trying to move forward. Harry is still looking back. That difference changes everything. When Diana cooperated with Morton on Diana, Her True Story, she was trapped inside a marriage that had become emotionally unbearable. She believed she was living a lie.
Does the idea of the spare come creeping back into your head, and you wonder if it's a little bit about ego? I want what Prince William has.
Good point. I mean, he spent much of his waking hours over the last few years in litigation, mm-hmm. and trying to have this.
She felt that she was propping up the monarchy with glamour, charisma, youth, beauty, and global public affection, while returning to Kensington Palace lonely and unloved. Her husband had found emotional fulfillment elsewhere. She wanted the world to understand what was really happening behind the polished royal image. The book was one-sided. Morton has always been clear about that. It was Diana's truth, told from Diana's perspective, supported by friends, family, tapes, and legal checking. It was not a balanced institutional history. It was not written as a neutral account from all sides. It was Diana's voice emerging from behind palace walls. But her motivation was connected to escape. She wanted the truth out because she no longer wanted to live inside the full story. By the final period of her life, Diana was looking ahead. She was involved with AIDS work. She was campaigning around landmines. She was preparing humanitarian visits connected to places such as Cambodia or Vietnam. She was thinking about a new life, new relationships, possibly even a future connected to California or Malibu. She had separated from the institution. She was beginning to imagine herself beyond it. That is part of the tragedy of her death. The hardest emotional work had already begun. She had endured the marriage. She had survived the separation. She had stepped out of the formal royal structure. She had begun to build a life that was not only defined by Charles, Camilla, the palace, or the tabloids. Then that future was taken from her. Harry's situation is different. He physically left the working royal family, but emotionally, he still appears trapped inside the old battlefield. The press, the palace, the Home Office, Ravek, his father, his brother, security, old girlfriends, old articles, old arguments, and his mother's death all remain active in his public life. California gave him distance, but not peace. Freedom gave him space, but not closure. That is why the litigation matters, beyond the legal result. It shows how much of Harry's waking life remains devoted to the past. Morton raised the obvious question of what this does to a marriage. Harry has spent much of his married life in lawsuits, testimony, meetings with lawyers, public statements, and emotional reconstructions of things that happened years ago. Meghan, according to reporting discussed in the interview, has at times been described as tired of the legal battles and more interested in building a future. That would make sense.
A lot of bitterness, and was she fixated on being wronged, or was she trying to move forward and find a happy ever after?
That's, for me, is the greatest tragedy of her life. She was looking forward to the future. She was looking forward to her charity work for AIDS and landmines, and I think she was about to go to Cambodia.
Any marriage would be strained if one partner kept reliving old wounds through court cases year after year. At some point, a family has to live forward. Children grow, businesses need focus. A home life needs ordinary rhythm. A couple cannot build a future if the emotional center of the household is always another case, another grievance, another statement, another appeal, another argument about what happened long before. That does not mean Meghan is free of blame in the broader Sussex story. She has participated in interviews, branding, media deals, and public accusations. But on this specific question, her reported desire to move into the future is understandable. Harry's litigation has become more than a legal strategy. It has become part of his identity, and identity built around grievance can become corrosive. Morton also pointed to the security issue as another major contrast between Harry and Diana. Diana gave up Scotland Yard protection after her separation. She did not want official protection around her in the same way. When she was in the UK, she arranged private security, including a former Scotland Yard officer connected to Princess Anne's protection. The point was simple. Diana found a practical alternative. Harry has taken a different route. He has fought for state-backed security in the UK, arguing that he and his family cannot safely return without it. His defenders say this is about genuine risk. He is globally recognizable. He has enemies. He has been targeted by extremist threats. He is his mother's son and the king's son. Security is not a fantasy issue for him. But critics ask whether the issue is only safety. They ask whether it is also status. Does Harry want protection because of a specific threat assessment? or because the protection itself symbolizes royal importance? Does he want what William has because William has it? Does the wound of being the spare still shape even this argument? That question matters because so much of Harry's memoir and public commentary circles around comparison. William had more, William was the heir, William's role was clearer, William's wife was treated differently, William's children have a future inside the monarchy. Harry's complaints are often about hierarchy, recognition, status, money, space, and emotional neglect. The spare wound is real, but it can also become a prison. If every decision is measured against William, Harry will never be free. If every privilege William retains becomes proof that Harry has been mistreated, then Harry's independence will always feel like loss. He chose to leave the working royal system, but he still seems to want some of the symbolic protections and recognitions that came from being inside it. That contradiction has never been resolved. It also leads directly into the question of credibility. Morton was asked whether Harry and Meghan are reliable narrators of their own history. His answer was clear: not always. That does not mean every feeling they express is false. It does not mean they have never suffered. It does not mean the palace handled everything well. But it does mean their version of events often requires careful scrutiny. There are obvious examples. Meghan claimed during the Oprah period that her passport and keys had been taken, creating an image of confinement. Critics pointed out that she traveled internationally, including to a New York baby shower, and that life inside a royal residence is not the same as being physically trapped without options. She may have felt controlled, but the literal picture was more complicated. Harry and Meghan also suggested they had privately married 3 days before their official royal wedding. That claim caused embarrassment because the legal ceremony was the public one at St. George's Chapel. The Archbishop of Canterbury later clarified the position. Again, the problem was not whether Harry and Meghan felt spiritually joined earlier. The problem was presenting an emotional truth in a way that collided with legal fact. There have also been questions about details in Spare, including timelines around family events. Harry's ghostwriter acknowledged in the book's framing that memory can be subjective, but that becomes a problem when emotional memory is presented with the force of fact. This matters because Harry and Meghan are not only telling a private story, they are shaping history. That is why accuracy is not a small issue here. When an ordinary family tells a story badly, the consequences usually remain inside that family. Memories clash. One person remembers a conversation one way, another person remembers it differently, and perhaps the truth never fully settles. But when a royal family story is told badly, it enters public record. It becomes material for documentaries, biographies, school essays, newspaper archives, future historians, and political arguments about the monarchy itself. That is why Morton insisted so strongly on proof when working on Diana, Her True Story. The book was emotionally explosive, but it still had to be legally checked. It still had to be supported by evidence. It still had to survive scrutiny because the accusations were not trivial. Diana was talking about the breakdown of a royal marriage, her mental health, self-harm, eating disorders, Camilla, palace life, isolation, and the future of the monarchy's public image. Those were not casual claims. They were claims that could change history, and they did. That is why the comparison with Harry is so revealing. Harry often seems to believe that because he feels something strongly, the world should treat it as a settled fact. But strong feeling is not enough when the subject is a public institution. It is not enough when other people are accused. It is not enough when reputations are damaged. It is not enough when future generations may rely on today's record to understand what happened. This is especially important with the racism allegations that emerged during the Sussexes' post-royal interviews. Claims of racism inside or around the royal family are serious. They cannot simply be brushed aside because they are uncomfortable, but they also cannot be allowed to sit in the historical record without careful examination, context, and challenge.
Narrators.
They're not reliable narrators of their own history. I mean, just The one thing that really irritates me, for example, Meghan saying, "Oh, the men in grey took the keys off me, my
passport,
and so on." And you don't need to lock your house up in Kensington Palace. There's enough police there to keep you happy. She didn't have a car, so there were no car keys.
If the monarchy is to be accused of racism, the public has a right to know what was said, who said it, what was meant, how it was understood, and how the story changed over time. That is not cruelty. That is accountability. Harry and Meghan often ask for accountability from others. They ask it of the palace, the press, the courts, and the public. But accountability cannot only run one way. If they make claims that alter the reputation of a family, an institution, and a country, then those claims can be examined. If details shift, people can notice. If emotional language outruns evidence, journalists and historians can ask questions. That is why reliable narration matters. Harry and Meghan do not need to be perfect witnesses to be sympathetic. Nobody remembering trauma is perfect. Grief can distort time. Stress can sharpen some memories and blur others. A person can misremember a detail and still have been hurt. But the more public a claim becomes, the more important it is to separate emotional memory from factual record. Harry has sometimes acknowledged the subjectivity of memory, but he does not always behave as if he understands the implications. If memory is subjective, then it should be presented with care. It should not be used as a weapon against others without qualification. It should not be packaged as absolute fact when it affects people who cannot respond in the same way. This is where Spare created so much discomfort. The book was not only Harry telling the world how he felt, it was Harry describing other people: William, Charles, Catherine, Camilla, Meghan, palace staff, old girlfriends, school friends, soldiers, and journalists. Some of those people could not answer back fully. Some were bound by royal discretion. Some had no public platform of equal size. Some were forced into Harry's narrative, whether they wanted to be there or not. That is the asymmetry. Harry could speak. Others had to absorb. And then, when the public or press pushed back, Harry could say he was being attacked again. That is a powerful structure for a personal brand, but it is not a healthy structure for historical truth. It also explains why William's silence has become so striking. William rarely answers Harry directly. He does not give emotional interviews about the breakdown of the brotherhood. He does not publish his own memoir. He does not sit with broadcasters to correct every detail. That silence can frustrate people who want both sides, but it also reflects the discipline of the heir. William understands that his role requires restraint, even when restraint leaves Harry's version louder in the short term. Over time, restraint can become its own argument. Harry talks, William waits. Harry explains, William works. Harry litigates. William prepares for the crown. That contrast may become more important than any single allegation. The public eventually judges not only what people say, but how they conduct themselves over years. A person can win sympathy with one emotional interview. It is much harder to sustain respect through repeated conflict. That is the danger Harry faces now. He has spoken so much that each new explanation has less force, and the more he tells the public, the more the public begins to test him. The more he accuses others of leaking, briefing, and manipulation, the more people examine his own media strategy. The more he asks for privacy, the more they remember the private details he has revealed. The more he invokes Diana, the more they compare him not only with her pain, but with her service, discipline, and ability to move toward others. The British royal family is not just celebrity culture. It is an institution that will be studied generations from now. 200 years from today, historians may still ask what happened during the Sussex split, what was true, what was exaggerated, what was misunderstood, and what was strategically framed. The accusations made in interviews, books, documentaries, and briefings will not simply vanish. That is why royal reporting and commentary still matter. When Harry and Meghan make claims about racism, cruelty, abandonment, institutional failure, or media collusion, those claims cannot simply float through history untested. They need context, they need evidence, they need challenge. Not because the Sussexes should be bullied, but because public memory should not be built only from one couple's emotional version of events. This is also where the comparison between Diana, her true story, and Spare becomes essential. Diana's book was explosive, but it gave her deniability while she was alive. She could say she had not directly cooperated, even though her friends had helped because they saw how unhappy she was. That deniability gave her room to maneuver inside the royal world. It allowed her to influence the public record while still avoiding total public ownership of the project. Harry did the opposite. Spare was his book, his name, his interviews, his publicity tour, his face and his voice. There was no distance, there was no buffer. He went on television and promoted the book openly. He discussed private family arguments, physical altercations, medical and intimate details, military experiences, drug use, and emotional wounds. He did not merely reveal his own pain, he revealed other people's private lives too. That is why Spare felt to many critics less like historical testimony and more like retaliation. Diana wanted the public to understand why she was unhappy. Harry often seemed to want the public to judge his family on his behalf. That is a very different emotional posture. Morton did acknowledge one part of Spare that felt moving: Harry's devotion to his mother. At its heart, the book can be read as a son searching for the mother he lost. That is tragic. It explains much of Harry's rage. It explains why the press becomes, in his mind, not simply an industry but an enemy. It explains why he cannot separate a headline about Meghan from a camera flash in Paris. But grief does not make every battle wise. Harry fights too many people at once. Morton described him as taking on the Home Office, Ravek.
Encourage Prince Harry to keep explaining himself, or do you think...
Move on.
Yeah.
That would be the two words that she would be saying, because she was moving on.
She really was.
I mean, for me, it's the greatest tragedy, the fact that she was on the cusp of moving on with her life after so much unhappiness, so much heartache, so many.
Buckingham Palace, his father, his brother, the press, and the courts. He does not seem able to pause and ask whether a particular battle is worth fighting. He behaves like someone who sees almost every obstacle as an enemy that must be confronted. That may create drama. It does not create peace. The same lack of focus appears in Harry and Meghan's commercial life. Since leaving the royal family, they have moved through streaming deals, audio projects, documentaries, books, podcasts, lifestyle television, charity work, product launches, jam, candles, bookmarks, and brand reinventions. Some projects made noise. Some attracted huge initial interest. But the pattern has often looked scattered. The American entertainment industry can be ruthless. Fame opens the door, but performance keeps it open. If a show does not hold attention, it disappears. If a podcast does not justify its cost, the deal ends. If a brand attracts curiosity but not customers, it becomes another headline rather than a business. Harry and Meghan arrived at the perfect moment. Streaming platforms were spending enormous sums and competing aggressively for high-profile talent. The Sussexes had global attention, royal drama, and a story everyone wanted to hear. They secured deals that likely would not be offered on the same terms today. But after the first wave, the question became unavoidable. What next? Their most valuable content was royal conflict. The documentary could sell the exit, the pain, the love story, the palace tension, the media war, and the accusation. But once that story has been told, what remains? Can Harry and Meghan produce compelling work that is not built on the monarchy? Can they create instead of react? Can they build a brand that does not depend on the family they left? That remains uncertain. Morton pointed to Prince Edward's earlier experience in television as a warning. A royal can start a production company, but royal status does not automatically make someone a great producer. The most marketable material often remains the family itself. That is the trap for Harry and Meghan. They want independence from royalty, but their commercial value is still tied to being royal adjacent. Meghan's lifestyle ambitions face a similar challenge. She may have wanted to become a modern version of a polished domestic tastemaker, but a lifestyle empire requires trust, consistency, useful products, operational discipline, and repeat customers. Headlines around jam or home goods may generate curiosity, but curiosity is not the same as a sustainable business. This is why talk of a future Meghan memoir is so significant. Morton suggested that the next major issue may be when Meghan writes her own autobiography. The historical comparison is obvious. The Duke of Windsor wrote his memoir, and years later, Wallis Simpson published her own version. If Harry has told his story, many will expect Meghan eventually to tell hers. A Meghan memoir would sell. It would dominate headlines. It would revive the royal conflict instantly, but it would also confirm the Sussex brand's deepest problem. The most valuable thing they still have to sell is grievance. Every return to royal conflict gives them attention while delaying the future they claim to want. That brings the story back to Diana. Diana's public affection was not only built on suffering, it was built on service. People loved her because she made others feel seen. She held the hands of AIDS patients when fear and stigma were still powerful. She walked through minefields. She sat with the sick, the lonely, and the overlooked. She used glamour to draw attention to pain outside herself. Harry does still have some of that gift. Morton acknowledged it. When Harry is with sick children, wounded veterans, or families connected to military service, he can still connect. He has charisma. He can walk into a room and people respond to him. Invictus remains a genuine achievement. His work with Well Child and Scotty's Little Soldiers still matters. There was a time when Harry was fun, warm, relaxed, and easy to like. But bitterness is beginning to crowd out that version of him. That was Morton's warning. Harry used to be fun. Now he risks becoming an embittered, middle-aged man. And bitterness does not stay neatly contained. It bleeds into interviews, it bleeds into charity work, it bleeds into family relationships. It changes the way people hear even the good things a person says. If Harry becomes defined by grievance, even his service work is affected. Every Invictus appearance becomes another question about Meghan, security, the palace, William, Charles, Netflix, or lawsuits. Every charity visit becomes part of the Sussex drama. Every good cause loses oxygen because Harry's emotional weather fills the room. That is not sustainable. If Harry truly wants to honor Diana, he should not simply repeat the most dramatic parts of her media strategy. He should learn from where she was heading when she died. Diana was trying to move into a new life. She was not planning to spend the rest of her existence relitigating every wound. She had grievances, yes. She had anger, yes. But she was also building towards service, independence, love, and reinvention. Harry has told his truth. He has made the documentary. He has published the memoir. He has given the interviews. He has brought the lawsuits. He has challenged the press, the palace, the Home Office, and the courts. Now, the real question is whether he can stop. Because if he cannot stop, the fight becomes his identity. And when the fight becomes the identity, peace starts to feel like defeat. That may be where Harry is now. Losing the Daily Mail case was not simply a legal setback. It was a blow to the story he has been telling himself. If the court says the evidence is not enough, Harry can either reconsider his assumptions or attack the process that rejected them. His public response suggests he is not yet ready to reconsider. That is why the possibility of an appeal worries critics. An appeal may satisfy Harry's need to keep fighting, but it could deepen the cost. It could keep witnesses under pressure. It could extend the financial damage. It could prolong the old wounds. It could delay the future Meghan may want to build. Most importantly, it could reinforce the impression that Harry is not seeking resolution, he is seeking validation. At some point, someone close to him needs to say the words Morton believes Diana would say. Move on. Move on from the case. Move on from the need to prove every suspicion. Move on from the endless comparison with William. Move on from treating royal status as something that can be recreated in California. Move on from using Diana as both shield and map. Move on before the past consumes everything. That does not mean forgetting Diana. It does not mean forgiving everyone. It does not mean pretending the press has never done harm. It does not mean denying Harry's pain. It means choosing not to live inside that pain forever. The tragedy is that Harry still has a path forward. He could make Invictus bigger than himself. He could support bereaved military families without turning each appearance into another chapter of the Sussex drama. He could stop suing and start building. He could let Meghan pursue her ventures without dragging the marriage back into courtroom conflict. He could rebuild what can be rebuilt privately and accept that some relationships may never return to what they were. He could become useful again. But usefulness requires discipline. It requires humility. It requires understanding that being Diana's son is not the same as being Diana. It requires accepting that public affection is not inherited forever. It has to be renewed through conduct. Harry once had that affection in abundance. He walked into rooms and people lit up. He had humor, warmth, and ease. He made the royal family feel more human. That version of Harry may not be completely gone, but it is being overshadowed by the angry litigant, the wounded narrator, and the man who cannot stop fighting. The Daily Mail case may have been expensive. It may have been humiliating. It may have been emotionally devastating, but it could still become useful if it teaches Harry one thing: evidence matters. Consequences matter. Trust matters. And the past cannot be repaired by endlessly relitigating it. Diana's lasting legacy was not that she exposed pain. It was that, at the end, she was trying to live beyond it. That is the lesson Harry still has not learned.